What's going on, guys? Welcome to a post 4th of July edition of 4th and 25 with Jram. I hope you guys have had a wonderful 4th of July. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. Stay safe out there. Hope y'all shot a lot of fireworks, ate a lot of good food, and celebrated Old Glory's birthday, our nation's independence, at 250 years. So happy birthday, America. Hope y'all had a great holiday. Hope you have a wonderful holiday weekend. Trust me, I wish I could have shot some fireworks. But hope you guys had a great night, a great holiday, and welcome to our show today. So, on today's show, we are going to conclude our schedule breakdown series and our conference game to watch series. And we'll also talk about my favorite football movies at the very end. So, without further ado, let's get rolling. So, today, we're going to start with a team that'll be preseason top 10, maybe top 5. Let's look at the schedule for Notre Dame. All right. So here's what the Irish have coming up for you this fall. Week 1, huge Sunday night game down in South Florida. They'll be taking on Miami, of course. What does Carson Beck look like? What do the Canes look like? This is a huge game. Prime time, standalone. There won't be no other game at that time. Great matchup. Great matchup. And then you have a bye week, and then you come back from that bye week, and guess what? You got A&M coming in, as Notre Dame took care of A&M last year, but A&M, I think, is a team that we can definitely keep an eye on this fall. That could be a sleeper that could make some noise. So huge game there. Then you stay at home for Purdue, who you should beat. A sneaky trip to Arkansas, but Arkansas's over win and loss total over and under is like 5.5, I believe. So not really high expectations there, but hey, Fayetteville can be a tricky place, so be careful there, Irish. And then you got Boise coming in October 4th. This is a sneaky good game. It's pretty cool. Boise going to Notre Dame. That's actually a sneaky good game. We'll see what Boise's like in the post-Ashton Jenny era. Then you got NC State coming in. Let's see. Then you got the rivalry game with USC coming up. SC. People talk about USC's record last year at 7-6, but people forget USC had a lot of very close games, and could have been much better than that win-loss record was. So sneaky good game there. You got your other bye week, and then you're at Boston College. You got Navy coming in. That's the team that's on my hat. You got Navy coming in November 8th. That should win, but you never know. Navy's going to be a sneaky team to play. Then you've got a trip to Pittsburgh. Then you host Syracuse, who's in a big rebuild. Pittsburgh, keep an eye on that defense. And Pitt's got some good players. They're going to be sneaky good. Syracuse, and then you close, of course, at Stanford, who's down right now. Manageable, but those first 5, three or four of them first 5, I think, is where the big tests are going to be. If Notre Dame can get by Miami and A&M, in my opinion, who knows? Maybe they run the table. Maybe they're 12-0, but I ain't going to go that far just yet. But there's some big games, but it's still a very, very manageable schedule for the Irish, in my whole humble opinion. But they're definitely going to be a good team to watch this fall. I think they're right back in the playoffs. I don't know if they're a national championship appearing team, but we'll see. Okay, so next up, we'll put a wrap on my conference games to watch this fall. We're going to jump in first. Let me make sure I get the right one up here. We're going to start with the SEC. This is the SEC conference games to watch. I broke them down by the weekends. Most of them are the contending teams, but there's also other games in here that I threw in. So we'll start September 6th. We've got Ole Miss at Kentucky. I know this one may not get strongly looked at by some folks, but as an Ole Miss fan, I'm not gonna lie, I've got that one circled. Y'all remember what happened last year? Kentucky let's just say, executed their game plan against Ole Miss, and it was a frustrating game that Ole Miss had no business losing last year. They should not have lost that game, but Kentucky did what they had to do, and they pulled the upset. But I can guarantee you Lane Kiffin and the Rebels got that one circled in Lexington, so payback is what the Rebels are going to be looking for. September 13th, I got three of them on here. Vanderbilt headed to South Carolina. Vandy was a surprise last year. Can they keep the momentum going? This would be a good chance for them to keep that up and get a good win. South Carolina, obviously, big expectations as well. Georgia at Tennessee. Maybe this one took a little bit of a hit with Nico's leave. I don't know. But still a big game. Florida at LSU. Monster game on the Bayou. One definitely with playoff contention and another one potential. This is always a good game. I love it. I love Florida LSU. One of my favorites every year. Fast forward to next week. South Carolina at Missouri. Missouri could be in a little bit of a rebuild. South Carolina has the big expectations. Can't afford a trip up here. We got the Jackson Arnold Bowl. Auburn at Oklahoma. This was a good game last year on the Plains that the Sooners won, but that'll be a good one. And then September 27th, look at these two. We got LSU and Ole Miss. Great game last year on the Bayou. Ole Miss led the whole game and lost in overtime. I'm glad we get them at home. Still a good game. I just hope we can pull the upset because I'm fairly sure we're going to be the underdogs. And then, of course, maybe the game of the year in the conference, Bama and Georgia in Athens. Last year, these two had a wild one in Tuscaloosa. For those who remember, it was a crazy game. And now it's in Athens. So, big day right there for the SEC with those two games potentially alone. Of course, Bama and Georgia is going to be huge. Maybe the first of two meetings for all we know. All right, next up, let's head into the month of October. I can't believe I have this game on here, but Vandy and Bama, you know what happened last year. You know what happened last year in Nashville when Vandy pulled the upset. I can guarantee you, just like I talked about with Ole Miss and Kentucky, Bama has got this one circled. I can't believe I'm saying that, but they are out for blood. They're out for revenge. Oof, I would not want to be Vandy that day. It's going to be a long day in Tuscaloosa, I'm afraid. And then you've got Texas at Florida. Outside of those two teams and their fan bases, I think this is an overlooked game. This is a big one in the swamp. This ain't no gimme for Texas. I know Florida's still in a little bit of a rebuild, but Florida's going to be good. So Texas, Florida, huge game. I think very overlooked, underrated game. October 11th, look at this slate. You got the rivalry game, Georgia and Auburn. You never know. South Carolina, LSU. This was a great one last year. LSU won it. Controversial, very controversial game. Florida at A&M. A&M took care of them last year, but that's a big one. That's one to keep an eye on in the SEC race. And then, of course, Red River rivalry, Oklahoma, Texas. We all know what Texas is expected to be, but many think Oklahoma is going to be a lot improved. So October 11th, that's some good games. And then October 18th, you got, of course, Tennessee and Bama. Tennessee won this dandy last year in Knoxville. That was a crazy game. But yeah, Tennessee, Bama, always big. Texas A&M, Arkansas. I'd put this game on here, even though, like we said, Arkansas expectations not real high. But this is always a great rivalry. It's always fun when these two get together. It don't matter what the records are. It's usually a close ball game, and it should be fun. Ole Miss and Georgia. Rebels beat the Dogs last year. Pretty much bullied them. Pretty much beat them down. But you can bet Georgia's got that one circled. They won't pay back too. Oklahoma at South Carolina. South Carolina just embarrassed OU last year out in Norman. Oklahoma coming here, though. And South Carolina, that place is going to be loud. That's going to be a big one. And then closing out the month of October, I've got three games on here. We got A&M and LSU. That's going to be a dandy on the Bayou. You got Ole Miss and Oklahoma. Oklahoma will be in payback after the Rebels beat them last year. And then Bama at South Carolina. Crazy game last year in Tuscaloosa. South Carolina almost pulled the comeback. That was a That was a wild, wild game. Okay, so now let me make sure I get the right. I don't want to pull up the wrong. Okay, here we go. November 1st. Now we go into the month of November. November 1st, we've got South Carolina, Ole Miss. Where are these teams at by then? Is Austin Simmons really good? Is Ole Miss's defense rebounded good enough? Is South Carolina, how are they? Are they handling their expectations? Are they in a good position here? Could be a good one. Oklahoma, Tennessee. Last year, Tennessee got the win here, but now OU comes to Knoxville. Keep an eye on that one. And then, of course, the cocktail party. I don't care what people say. I still call it the cocktail party. Georgia, Florida. Might be the most anticipated one in a while between these two. Can't wait to see that. And then you fast forward another week. We got November 8th. LSU, Bama. Of course. Always a big game. Huge deal. Never ain't unless one of them's having a horrible season, and that's been a long time. So LSU going to Tuscaloosa, that's going to be a huge game. Texas A&M and Missouri. A&M is the one with the big expectations that we all expect to be better. This is one of those games. Be careful. You got South Carolina the following week, but be careful here going to Mizzou. And then you got Auburn and Vandy. Neither one of them, are going to be in the SEC title picture or anything. But hey, you could salvage your season, at least get to your bowl eligibility bout here. Who knows? Diego Pavia and Vandy won this game last year at Auburn. So keep an eye on that one. It could be a big game. And then November 15th, we've got another big time slate. Oklahoma and Bama. If you saw what OU did to Bama last year, you know this is another one where the revenge factor is going to be on the charts. OU's going to be coming into Tuscaloosa. Bama's going to be wanting payback. I don't think that was going to be 24-3 again. But OU, Bama, big deal. Maybe another SEC Game of the Year candidate. Texas and Georgia. Georgia won last year both times in Austin and then at the SEC Championship game. That's going to be a monster game. Florida and Ole Miss. Great game last year in Gainesville. Of course, the fan in me is praying Ole Miss pays them back. But look, maybe Ole Miss plays spoiler. Who knows? And then South Carolina and A&M. South Carolina upset A&M last year, even though I didn't think it was an upset. And Columbia kind of derailing A&M's postseason hopes, even though they still almost made the SEC Championship. But that was a wild scene. And then November 22nd. So weird seeing this game this late in the season, but Tennessee and Florida. I'm used to it being in September still. But you got Tennessee and Florida. Who knows where we are? But here, Tennessee could be just trying to get bowl eligible for all we know. But until further notice. And then you got Arkansas and Texas. Arkansas gave Texas trouble last year in Fayetteville. They could get annihilated here for all I know. Old Southwest Conference rivals, but it's still looked at as a rivalry. And then Missouri and Oklahoma could be a big game there to keep an eye on, too, between the former Big 12 rivals, now SEC foes. All right. And then, to close out the regular season in the SEC, here is the last week of the season. November 28th, Black Friday, we've got Ole Miss and Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl. Regardless of the records, it's hostile. It's a tense rivalry. It's in Starkville. State would like to put a sour note on Ole Miss if they could. And then, of course, A&M and Texas. When Texas announced they were coming back to the SEC, I was super stoked because it meant this rivalry was coming back. So that'll be a big game in Austin. And then, of course, the 29th, that last Saturday of the regular season, you got Bama and Auburn, the Iron Bowl. Again, regardless of records, it's still great to watch. LSU, Oklahoma. Is LSU playing for a spot in Atlanta? Is Oklahoma trying to keep their playoff hopes alive? And then you got Vandy and Tennessee, another good in-state rivalry. All right. So that is my SEC games to watch this fall. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, or a quick break. And when I come back, we're going to do our final conference. We're going to look at the Big Ten conference games to watch this fall. Be right back. Alright guys, welcome back into 4th and 25 with Jram. Alright, so we just put a wrap on the SEC conference games to watch. So let's do our final week. Let's take a look at the mighty Big Ten conference. There we go. Alright, so starting with a Friday night game I made note of, September 19th, you got Iowa headed to Rutgers. Rutgers returns a lot of production, a lot of experience. Iowa going to be going into potentially a tricky game. Who knows? But a chance for somebody to get an early conference win. September 20th, we've got Illinois headed to Indiana. Hey, look, Indiana made the playoff last year. They're going to have big expectations again. But Illinois, a lot of veteran experience back. They're going to be right in the thick of this too. So they could be this year's Indiana for all we know. So big game there. Got Michigan and Nebraska. Michigan, we all think is going to be a lot better. We think Nebraska's finally on their way back. Could be an interesting ball game. And then September 27th, we've got USC at Illinois. Again, Illinois is expected to be good. USC expected to be good. Something's got to give. Ohio State at Washington. Ohio State gets to go to Husky Stadium. And Washington, I think, is going to be improved. Indiana and Iowa, that'll be a good one. And then, of course, prime time, it's already NBC prime time at night. Oregon, Penn State. Oh, I think it's going to be a wideout game. But a huge game. Rematch of the Big Ten title game. 2 playoff contenders. That's going to be a wild atmosphere for that game. And then the following week, I just had Penn State at UCLA on October 4th. Penn State's going to be coming off that Oregon game. And UCLA finished strong last year. Just saying. Watch yourself, Penn State. Don't set up for a letdown. Just for you've been warned. Alright. So, as we move along, October 10th, we've got Rutgers at Washington. They had a good game last year in Piscataway. If nothing else, they give you something to watch on a Friday night if you're not at a high school game. October 11th, Ohio State at Illinois. Buckeyes don't overlook the Illini. Michigan, USC had a good one last year. Now USC will be looking for payback with Michigan coming in. Indiana at Oregon. Everybody talked about Indiana's schedule last year, and I get it. But they upgraded this year. Good luck at Eugene. Whew. October 17th, you got Nebraska, Minnesota. Sneaky good little Friday night game. Could be for bowl positioning. It could be sleeper in the conference for all we know. So that'll be interesting. October 18th, you got Washington and Michigan. And then you got Penn State at Iowa. Always a good Big Ten series when they get together. October 25th, to close out this month, you got Illinois at Washington. Could be a sneaky good game in the conference race too. Illinois better be careful. Michigan at Michigan State. I know Michigan State's still kind of down, but they're slowly progressing. Minnesota, Iowa. If you have not seen the Floyd of Rosedale trophy, please look it up. It's like a bronze-looking pig statue. It's so cool. And that's what these two play for. Really cool trophy. Okay. As we get rolling into the month of November, you might be looking at a conference game of the year right there at the top of this picture, outside of Oregon and Penn State. November 1st, Penn State at Ohio State. They had a good one last year. Penn State, of course, lost the game, but still made the Big Ten title game because of Ohio State losing to Michigan. But that's going to be a huge game in Columbus. They got Rutgers, Illinois. That's a sneaky, I think, good game as far as middle of the pack. USC at Nebraska. USC is going to be really good. They need to win this game. They need to prove it. But Penn State, Ohio State, obviously, we've all got that one circled that watch college ball. November 8th, Indiana at Penn State. Talking about Indiana playing tougher games. There you go. Oregon at Iowa. Oregon, sneaky place. Tough place to play at. Could be setting up for a letdown if you don't overlook the Hawkeyes. If you do overlook the Hawkeyes. Alright, November 14th, Friday night game, Minnesota, Oregon. November 15th, Penn State at Michigan State. Be careful. Iowa at USC, I think that's a sneaky good game too in the conference race. I'll see how Iowa handles LA. November 22nd, we got Nebraska going to Penn State. I made this Illinois, Wisconsin. Wisconsin's down. Illinois, this is your chance to beat them while you can. And then you got USC at Oregon, another potential big game in the conference. All right, so, and to close out the season for the Big Ten, here's what we got. November 28th, Iowa and Nebraska. This is Black Friday, obviously. Sneaky good rivalry. Pretty cool trophy. Indiana, Purdue. This game was 66-0 last year. I don't think it's going to be that bad this year, but will Indiana take care of the business? And then finally, November 29th, Oregon, Washington, Wisconsin, Minnesota for the axe of Paul Bunyan's axe. That's a cool trophy. UCLA, USC, the crosstown rivalry. And then the game. Ohio State, Michigan. Of course, y'all know. Everybody knows. Will Michigan beat them for the 5th straight year? Or will Ohio State finally break the streak? I don't think they're as heartbroken about last year since they still won the national championship. But that's what you get when you have a bigger playoff field. Alright, so that is a wrap on our conference games to watch this fall. So that has been fun series. Alright, next up, we are going to shift gears and head over to the NFL side. We've been doing schedule breakdowns the last few weeks for the divisions per teams. We did a show Wednesday where we did the entire North divisions and South divisions. We did the East a couple weeks ago. So today we're going to put a wrap on it with the West, the NFC and AFC West. So let's get rolling with the NFC West. We're going to start with a team that I think is going to be better, and I think they could be a sneaky wild card team. I think they could be a playoff team. Let's look at Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals schedule. Week 1 at New Orleans. As a Saints fan, of course, I hope we win. I hope we beat them. But it's going to be a tough game. Very tough game. Very winnable game for the Cardinals. Week 2, you host Carolina. Week 3, you're off to San Francisco, who obviously lost a lot in the offseason. They could be down. And then you got Seattle at home. So that first month, there is a chance to build some early momentum and be right there in the thick of things. Then you got Tennessee at home, at Indy. So there is a very good chance that a 5-1, 6-0-ish kind of start, but I don't think they're going to be 6-0. But there's a chance to start strong. And you got Green Bay coming in. That's going to be a huge game. Then you got your bye week. At Dallas, November 3rd. I believe that's a Monday night game. Yeah, I think that is a Monday night game. Who knows? Got to go to Seattle. Then you got back-to-back home games that are very winnable with the Niners and Jaguars. A trip to Tampa, that's going to be tough. Your first of 2 meetings with the Rams at home. The Rams probably going to be the favorite to win the division. A trip to Houston, that's going to be a tough one. You got Atlanta coming in. That's going to be tricky. And then you got road games to finish out at Cincy and LA. So a very manageable start to the season, but that last 5 games, that's brutal. That's going to be tough. So if I was a Cardinals, I'd be trying to rack up a lot of wins before you get to that closing stretch. But keep an eye on Arizona. I think they're going to be a good team to watch this upcoming season. All right. So next up, let's look at San Francisco at the 49ers and see what they've got. All right. So week 1, you have got to go to Seattle, and then you got to go to New Orleans. So you got road games for the first 2 weeks. Then you got Arizona coming in and Jacksonville coming in. I really just don't know what to think of the Niners. These games are winnable, though, so they can start strong. Then you got to go to LA. That's going to be brutal. And Tampa. That's going to be whew. You got Atlanta coming in. Then a trip to Houston. That's going to be tricky. Got to go to New York for the Giants. Then you got the Rams again at home. And then a trip to Arizona. Winnable game with the Panthers. Another winnable game in Cleveland. They got a very late bye week. They're off week 14. And then they close out with the final 4 games being home against the Titans, at the Colts, home against the Bears, at home against Seattle. A lot of winnable games, but like I say, with the departures and everything, you just don't know what to think of the 49ers this upcoming season, in my opinion. But here's what we're looking at for their 2025 schedule. Alright, next up, let's take a look at the Seattle Sea Chickens. I get the Seattle Seahawks. If there's any Seahawks fans that hear this, I'm just picking. Here's a look at the Seahawks. Week 1, Niners coming in, big divisional game. Definitely want to win that one. At Pittsburgh, DK Metcalf against his old team. DK Metcalf was traded to Pittsburgh, so he's now with the Steelers. You got New Orleans coming in, Thursday night game at Arizona. Tampa at home at Jacksonville, and then a Monday night game with Houston before your Week 8 bye week. So that first 7, chance to build some early momentum, some very winnable games, or they could fall flat on their face for all we know. But that's what they start out with. After your bye week, Sunday night game at Washington, we all know how good the Commanders are now, so that's going to be tricky. Arizona at home, trip to LA, yikes. Then you go to Tennessee, got the Vikings coming in, and then you're at Atlanta. Of course, Sam Darnold was with the Vikings last year, before I forget this, and led them to the playoffs. Now he's Seattle's quarterback. We'll see how that combination goes. At Atlanta, Indy at home, Thursday night game with the Rams. That's possibly a huge game in the divisional race. And then you wrap up at Carolina and at Arizona to close out. At Carolina and at San Francisco to close out the season. Sorry about that. So this is definitely a wild card contending team. Maybe a sneaky divisional contender, but I still think the Rams are the best team in this division right now. But this is a very manageable schedule. Could the Seahawks get back to the postseason? We shall see. All right, our final schedule. We are going to take a look as far as the NFC West. The LA Rams, and holy crap, this thing is smaller than I thought it was. Alright, so my apologies for that. Big game week 1 for the Rams. You got Houston coming in. That could be a very sneaky good game. 2 playoff contenders, 2 divisional contenders. But that's a big one, week 1. Then you hit the road to Tennessee for a winnable game against the Titans. Week 3, I see you. Philly, the Eagles, Super Bowl champs, coming in. Could a rematch of their playoff game. Could it be an NFC title game preview? Who knows? But that's a big one. And then you got to go to Indy. You got the Colts coming in. Wait a minute. No, you got to go to Philly. I'm sorry. Let me make sure I read this right. Texans at home at Tennessee. Yeah, at Philly. Okay, so they got to go to Philly. That's going to be tough. And then you got the Colts coming in. And the 49ers coming in. So you got some tricky games. And then you got some interesting games at first 5. But then back-to-back trips to Baltimore and Jacksonville. That game with the Ravens, that's going to be a huge game. After the Jacksonville trip, you've got your bye week at week number 8. So, some tough games in that first stretch. Houston, Philly, Baltimore. Could start slow or could start good. Off the bye week, you got New Orleans coming in. You got a trip to San Francisco. Then you've got Seattle and Tampa at home. Those are going to be difficult. That'll be interesting. Then you got to go to Carolina and Arizona. Hosted Detroit. That'll be a big game. Trips to Seattle and Atlanta. That'll be good. And then they close out with the Cardinals. So, team with big expectations. Divisional favorite more than likely. But they got some tricky ones on here. So, that's going to be a tough schedule. All right. Next up, in our final division, let's take a look at the good old AFC West. We're going to start with the Raiders. I am, for one, super excited to see Ashton Jenney with the Raiders. I cannot wait to see how he does. So here's who the Raiders play. Week 1, you've got the Patriots on the road. Winnable game, very losable game. Week 2, you got a Monday night game, it looks like. I think you got the Chargers coming in. That's a divisional clash. Got to go to DC. That's going to be tough. We got Caleb Williams and the Bears coming in. A trip to Indy. The Titans coming in. So, and then you got to go to Kansas City right before your bye week. Of course, we ain't got to talk about the Chiefs too much. We know how good they are. But got some toss-ups, but then you got some I don't think they win. But hey, if you could come out of there 5-2, you might have some, you could be over something. You got your bye week, and then you got Jacksonville coming in. That's winnable. Divisional trip to Denver, who was improved last year that I called. Then you've got Dallas coming in and Cleveland coming in. Those are winnable games. Then the trip to LA to play the Chargers. The Broncos again at home. Tough games. A trip to Philly December 14th. Yikes. You got to go to Houston. Yikes. And then you close out with home games with the Giants and the Chiefs. And who knows where the Chiefs are going to be by then when we get there. But, well, I don't know what the Raiders' expectations are, but we'll see what they look like. But they got some tough games. Okay, so, moving along, let's look at the LA Chargers schedule for 2025. Now, that week 1 game with the Chiefs, you see, is in Brazil. It's a Friday night game, too, I believe. But, divisional clash, when they're fully healthy, Chargers and Chiefs is usually a good series, a good rivalry game. But that should be fun. Week 2, you're in Vegas. Play the Raiders. Week 3, you got Denver. Then you're at the Giants, and you got the Commanders and at the Dolphins. So, Chargers, of course, trying to get back to the playoffs, trying to avoid a huge injury bug again. That first 6, got some manageable games, but if you could come out of it 4-2, I think you'd be sitting pretty early on. Then you got back-to-back home games with the Colts and Vikings that are winnable at Tennessee, Pittsburgh at home, and then at Jacksonville before your bye week on week 12. Winnable games. You got your bye week, then you come home, you got the Raiders at home, Eagles at home, at Chiefs and at the Cowboys, yikes, and then the Texans and at Denver. So, kind of like what we touched on with the Rams a little bit ago. A very manageable start, but after that bye week, that is a brutal 6-game stretch to close out right there. So, the Chargers are going to have to earn it, I believe, but definitely a team to keep your eye on. Alright, next up, the team that took a lot of people by surprise last year and made a great run with the rookie quarterback and got to the playoffs. The Broncos, I see you, Bo Nix. They open up with the Titans, very winnable, at Indy, at LA. You got the Bengals coming in. Interesting first month, but they could start strong. Then you got trips to Philly and New York to play the Jets. Got the Giants coming in, you got the Cowboys coming in. So that first 8, and then at Houston, we'll stop there for a second. At Houston, man, there is a good chance to start strong here and put yourself in contention. But if they can start 6-3 or 7-2, watch out. You got the Raiders at home, you got the Chiefs at home, then you got your bye week. A trip to Washington, a trip to Vegas. You got Green Bay at home. That could be sneaky good. That'd be a good game to potentially see by that time. Jags at home, at Chiefs, and then the Chargers. Denver, I think, is going to be even better than they were last year. I'm not saying Super Bowl contender, but maybe they won a playoff game. But this is a very, very good slate for the Broncos. All right, our final team in the NFL to look at their schedule, and we'll be done with this, is the team who got annihilated in the Super Bowl last year. Of course, the Kansas City Chiefs. They open up with the game in Brazil against the Chargers. That's, like we just talked about, a great series. Their two games usually are always fairly good, especially when Herbert and Mahomes are healthy. Week 2, you got Philly coming in, Super Bowl rematch. It's going to be a big time game. Big game. Week 3, you're at the Giants. Week 4, you got Lamar and the Ravens coming in. That'll be big. Sneaky good trip to Jacksonville. Week 5, that could be, I think that's a Monday night game. At Detroit. No, I'm sorry. Jacksonville's on the road. Detroit's at home. My apologies. Raiders at home. I'm excited for this one at Washington Week 8. Jaden against Mahomes. Come on. That's going to be good. That's going to be good. Buffalo at home. Yeah, Washington. I did say Washington was on the road, right? Yeah, okay. Buffalo at home, obviously. Look, Bills Chiefs today is always must see TV. Josh Allen versus Mahomes kind of reminds me of Brady and Peyton a little bit. But after the Bills game, they get their bye week. Then you got Denver coming in. You got to go to Denver. And then you've got Indy at home. Those are very winnable. You got to go to Dallas. And then you got Houston at home. Huge game. You've got to go. You got the Chargers at home, at Tennessee, Denver at home, and then at Vegas. As usual, Chiefs got some tough games, but they're constantly a Super Bowl contender. Of course, you're going to have tough schedules, but very, very big-time games like Philly, Baltimore, Washington, Detroit, and Houston, and Buffalo. Some big-time games on that schedule. All right, guys, we're going to take one more break, and when we come back, we are going to put a wrap on this thing with my favorite football movies. Be back in just a minute.
Look at me, you're lost at sea, circling eternally. Come and help me from this insanity. Where am I disgrace? I hate to see your face. I wanna see you drown in your sorrow. You know I know I'm not the same. I'm fading away. I'm falling into my grave.
Alright guys, welcome back into 4th and 25. Let's put a wrap on this show. Usually we do a non-football segment, but this week, instead of talking about food for a change, we're going to just, no particular order, just my favorite football movies. Alright, so first off, who remembers this classic? Any Given Sunday. Jamie Foxx, Dennis Quaid, Al Pacino, however you say his name. Pretty much an NFL-like movie. Crazy movie. Foul language, yes, but this was a great movie. I always loved it. Remember Lawrence Taylor was in it. Kind of was really, really good. I still watch it to this day if I can. But this was a phenomenal football movie. Really like Dennis Quaid as the old, experienced quarterback in it. I thought it was maybe my favorite character was him, but Jamie Foxx was phenomenal in this movie. But great movie. Okay, next up, The Replacements. This movie was so funny. I spent half my time laughing watching this movie, The Replacements. Favorite scene was when they were all in jail and they all started dancing to that I Will Survive song. That was so funny. But the sumo wrestler who played offensive lineman was pretty funny, and probably my favorite player was the linebacker, Danny Bateman, who hit anything that was red. Or tried to hit anything he could. They had to remind him that red means stop. But this movie was so funny. Great movie. Rest in peace, Gene Hackman. But phenomenal movie. Still watch it to this day. Okay. And then this next one, of course, there was two of them. There was the original, and then a kind of like a remake. The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds. Great movie. Hilarious movie. But a classic. And then, of course, you had the remake with Adam Sandler, Chris Rock, Burt Reynolds, NFL great Michael Irvin, WWE Hall of Famer Bill Goldberg. Awesome movie. So funny. So funny. Kevin Nash was in this movie. I think Stone Cold Steve Austin was in the movie. This movie was awesome. Great remake. So both Longest Yards. Can't go wrong with that. Next up, a high school football movie. Who remembers this classic? Hard to believe it's 25 years old. Remember the Titans with Denzel Washington. The part where the player was paralyzed. Oh, that messed me up. I ain't gonna lie. I got a little teary eyed. And watching him celebrate them winning the state championship hit me in the emotions. But great movie about a high school football program. I believe it was in Virginia. And good way to bring people together. Phenomenal movie. Okay, and our final movie is going to be a college football movie. This classic, The Program, with James. I hope I said his name right. In-depth movie about a college football program, pretty much. Stuff that goes on behind the scenes and what all they deal with. QB trying to handle Heisman hype. Player who had steroid problems, all that kind of stuff. It's funny, the way I remember this movie is because somebody was telling me about it and it had Mississippi State on it, my arch rival school. But still a good movie back in the 90s, I believe, in the early 90s. But a great movie, great movie. Alright, what a pace. Good pace on this show tonight. Two things before we get out of here. First off, just want to send my prayers, my thoughts, prayers, and my love to the state of Texas, to those people who were affected by that horrible flooding that they're dealing with. I don't know how many have sadly perished, but it sounds like kids have been missing and stuff. But bad flooding in Texas, and we're thinking about those people tonight. Our thoughts and prayers are with them. Next week's show, we are going to do player rankings, and what we'll do, I'm going to do my top 5 quarterbacks, players, top 5 QBs, running backs, receivers, tight ends, offensive line, and then we'll flip over and do defensive players and special teams. So, player rankings next week for this show, and then after that, for our non-football segment, we'll close out. We'll go probably back to food, and we're going to talk about favorite types of barbecue for you barbecue lovers out there. And that'll be it. That'll be what we do next week. So before we get out of here, let me pull it up. I always close the show with the Bible verse. Let me pull it up here real quickly. Sorry for that. Alright, so today's verse comes from Matthew 6:34. Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient unto the day is the evil thereof. Alright, guys. Appreciate y'all for tuning in. Good show today. Good pace, about what I usually shoot for. Like I said, next week, player rankings. We're going to do all the position groups, and then we will talk about some barbecue. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Hope you have a wonderful day. Enjoy the rest of the holiday weekend. God bless America. God bless y'all. And take care of yourself. And God bless.